Welcome back to Balance Your Wealth. As we step into a brand new year, it's the perfect time to reset, refocus, and realign your financial life. Today, we're breaking down the key things to consider as you enter the new year ahead. Simple steps that can help set you up for clarity, confidence, and long-term success. This week, I'm joined by Bob, Nick, Tyler, and Adam. Bob, want to go ahead and get us kicked off with refreshing your goals and budget for the new year?
Yeah, absolutely. The new year is a great time for new goals, right? Everybody has their New Year's resolutions. The thing I want people to think about, though, is making sure you make your goals specific, measurable, and attainable, right? So everybody has a New Year's resolution to lose some weight, but it's very vague to just say, hey, I want to get in better shape. If instead you say, you know what, I want to lose 10 pounds by June 1st, and I'm going to do it by going to the gym 4 times a week, that's much easier to measure, and you can actually accomplish that. And same thing should be done from a financial perspective. If you say, hey, I've got this $20,000 in credit card debt that I want to get paid off, hey, I'm going to do it by making an extra $250 payment every couple of weeks or something that is very measurable versus just saying, I want to get out of debt, right? That is too vague and not specific enough that it doesn't really help you. So make sure when you're setting your goals, you make them specific and you make them measurable so that you can actually go through the steps to get where you want to get.
Yeah, I think creating sub goals, like you said, Bob, is important, right? You have the main goal up here, and let's go down a notch and add the sub goals to get there. And then you could even drill down even further. How do I achieve that second rung of goals? What steps do I have
Mhm.
to do? And if you can keep drilling down to things that you can nail every day, just builds that habit and makes that end goal a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to making sure you have the proper behavior in place that's going to allow you to get to where you want to get to, right? And I'll align it with fitness in the same way that if you just keep going to the gym each and every day or every few days, however it is, you're going to see progress regardless of kind of the design of your workout. Just going to the gym, being there and doing the work is going to get you there versus trying to look out and say, hey, where am I going to be in a year or whatever? So breaking it down to sub goals is always a great idea.
And
And
make them
I'll add in,
make the goals attainable, right? If you're always shooting for some crazy goal and you never see that progress, like you said, Bob, you're going to get down. You're going to be like, man, I'm never going to get there. So again, making those goals attainable, seeing that progress, that really boosts the excitement and the confidence that you're going to achieve that.
that's going to be my point, making sure they're realistic, right? If you say you're going to pay an extra $250 every couple weeks towards your debt, but you've got no money left in your budget every week, right now, it's going to be very hard to make that goal come to reality.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing that I'd recommend is, end of the year, New Year's actually pretty special for me. It's anniversary for my wife and I, New Year's Day. So, when I try to hit her over the head with like, now's a great time to go through all of our financial goals and stuff, she doesn't get too excited about that. But I would say like it is still a good time to, crack open beverage of choice and include your significant other if you have one, go through the goals together as best you can and just try to make sure that everyone in the household is rowing in the same direction and everyone's on the same page. And to steal Dave Ramsey's terms here, it doesn't need to be like a 3 hour long budget committee meeting, right? Like make it short and sweet and try not to, make it something that you loathe doing. Like setting goals should be a fun thing for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point, Nick. I agree. Keep it short, concise, and you're more likely to come back to those conversations if they're enjoyable. A big piece is just taking that first step of having a conversation, right? Evaluate your debt, evaluate your cash flow. This time of year, there's a lot of cash coming in, and if you're like me, a lot of cash going out, right? A lot of cash coming in, from family members, grandparents, the outside family typically goes with the grandkids and not the parents. Evaluating, the debt and the income that's coming in is vitally important this time of year, right? And there's a lot of things to consider. What what debt I want to get rid of right away. Obviously, credit card debt, bad debt, anything around that 7-8%, loan rate, we want to get rid of quickly. And larger debt, mortgages, it's a great time to talk about refinancing your house potentially. I mean, there's one more rate cut potential here in December that's coming up here next week, and it's just those conversations are important. It's just a small step in that sub goal that you were talking about, Tyler.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many tools out there to help nowadays, right? Like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was like, I'm going to have to whip out Excel and create a budget or use a piece of paper, right? And write a budget. Like no one wanted to do that. We use Monarch Money for some of our clients, right? Who want that help, who need that. They want to see that. It's so easy to link your accounts and see your cash flow and create budgets. Don't be afraid to get out there and do it. It doesn't take as long as it used to anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tyler. And it can help with everything we've talked about so far, from the goal setting and the conversations with significant others, right? That maybe they don't want to go through the process to set everything up. But if you can pull it together and have a presentation is a fun word to use there, right? But just something easy to have a conversation around. These tools will help you to bring everything together and then understand, to Adam's point, okay, what are the debts that we should be attacking first? And then if you're on the same page with your significant other, not only are both of you being held accountable and, rowing in the same direction, but then each of you individually, at least what I've seen in my marriage, is then you don't want to disappoint the other one, or what happens in my marriage is my wife wants to one up me. She's going to be like, well, I'm going to do better than you are at saving or at setting this money aside or whatever it may be. So it can create some friendly competition too, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I'd love for you to sit Heather down and give her a presentation, Bob, on your.
It's not going to go very far. We've tried.
I was thinking if I was going to do that, I'd have to, the first page of my presentation would be the things we are going to buy. So I have to lead with a win and
There
then
you
go into
go.
the budgeting.
See, these are useful tips that, we're
Yes.
sharing here that, men everywhere can share with.
Perfect.
And
Well,
Bob, a
I,
good place to start for those that maybe have never even had an initial conversation. Just talk about an emergency fund. Trying to set up an emergency fund on the side. That's a topic that a lot of people think they are good and covered, but don't necessarily have a plan or an actual emergency fund that's there. Have an emergency fund. My family and I benefited from having that, going through the hurricane down in Florida, moving up to Ohio. Without that, we would have been in some serious trouble. So if you're looking for a place to start that conversation, having an emergency plan in place for you and your family is a great place to start.
all right. Well, on another topic, my wife and I just had our third kid, and something we definitely need to do at the beginning of the year is make sure all of our beneficiaries are updated. Make sure our wills and powers of attorney and those things are updated. When you have kids, guardianship is a big thing, at least for me, right? Like I want my kids going to where we want them to go, right? If something were to happen to me and my wife, I don't want all the relatives that were over at Thanksgiving dinner and the extended cousins fighting over my children, right? So that's a big thing. Just making sure all of those are updated. A new kid always pops things into your head like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And even though we're running in zombie mode right now, that's at the top of our list.
Yeah, definitely, Tyler. And, me on sort of the other end of the spectrum, my oldest will be 18 in January, and a kid turns 18, and all of a sudden they're legally an adult for all intents and purposes. And that has a change to our estate plan and our beneficiaries as well. So my wife and I are talking about revisiting ours to just make sure. And it's something it doesn't, whether you have a kid that, new kid or a kid turning 18, the new year is a great time to revisit your beneficiary designations, just because you've been around family for the last month and a half and you want to make sure that those people still make the cut, right? So just verifying all of the different estate documents is a great idea. And, make sure that your family is protected if, something were to happen to you, your spouse, or anybody important to you.
Don't want people fighting over Aunt Sally's gravy dish, right? It needs to go where it needs to go. Rightful
That's
owner.
right. Exactly.
All right. Yeah. So on the topic of kids, yeah, I have another new baby this year too. So I should probably get on that whole, updating the important documents thing. But also 2026 will be an interesting year because we have the new Trump accounts for kids. I don't know what the official name for it. Trump accounts, I think is all it is. But it's a big deal. We just saw the headline this last week that the Dell family is also upping that donation or that initial contribution for kids that were recently born. But those Trump accounts are eligible for contributions for every child under the age of 18. So I don't know if your daughter will make it, Bob, but your other kids might. And so essentially, that account, there's still more info coming on. Essentially, anyone can contribute for a total contribution for the year of up to $5,000 per child. And with that, when the child turns 18, then it essentially becomes and acts like a traditional IRA. So we'll see how many people take advantage of it. Certainly, folks who just had babies, Tyler and I, our kids will get the $1,000 to $1,250 contribution initially, but all of that is set to hit the road or come to life in June this year. So we'll keep our eyes out for that one. It could add to more planning strategies, right? And on that, like another thing, so like that's a mid-year thing. So it's like if you are going to give money to kids, like maybe you wanted to wait until you had this new vehicle to use versus like doing one of the 529 plans or something else in January, just to give yourself maximum flexibility down the road. We find it especially helpful in many different situations to make those monthly contributions or any amount that you're saving every month to stash that away in a taxable account or brokerage account versus just plugging it into a Roth or some other retirement account, which once you put those dollars in, you're pretty limited on what can happen afterwards. So making those money moves into the account to give you maximum flexibility all the way through the end of the year. And then when December to April come, then we can be really precise and really maximize the amount of benefit that you get for all the different types of accounts out there. So that's a big one. I'd say outside of that, foot wise, rebalancing is a huge one, right? Like we are coming up on another year of 10, 15% plus gain in the stock market overall. And so if you had a 60-40 portfolio, well, another 10, 15% gain, that means that now you're at a 70-30 portfolio if you didn't rebalance throughout the year. So it's a good time to just reevaluate risk, maybe peel some earnings off the table. And we're thankful, that that's the scenario we're in versus the flip side. But hey, we'll take these successes as they come.
Yep. And one note that I'll make when it comes to rebalancing, because I've just seen it a lot over the years from folks as they go through maybe their 401k options, what they'll do is they'll look back and they'll say, hey, what was the best performing fund last year? And I'm going to push my money over to that one. And I just want to encourage people not to do that, right? Past returns are not indicative of future results. I think that's what we always have to say with these things. But when you're going through and rebalancing, make sure you're thinking about forward looking. What's a good thing to be investing in, and why am I investing in this fund or asset class or sector, whatever it may be? Don't just go into your 401k or 403b and pick the best performer from last year to put your money into, because that could be the worst performer the coming year. So just be mindful, be thoughtful when it comes to that rebalance, and make sure you're thinking about your long-term strategy in line with it.
Yeah, I feel like investing is becoming more thematic lately, right? Like there's all these huge industry themes. Nick, give us your rundown on top 2, 3 themes for 2026.
Oh, all right. Let's go. Yeah, the thematic stuff is huge, and it's really like even changing the definitions of a lot of things. Like my favorite example to point at is Tesla is a stock, arguably one of the biggest tech stocks. They're invested heavily in AI, robotics, etc. But if you look at the sectors of the S&P 500, that stock it's not categorized as a tech stock. It's categorized under consumer discretionary, or the thing that people spend money on when they have extra dollars laying around. And so, making sure that you're capturing those mega trend themes might look a little bit funny if you're basing your lens in which you look at things through the old ways. So I'd say like AI, robotics, those are some of the biggest drivers going into 26 and 27. And then on top of that is how you power all this stuff, right? And I think, that from the data centers that are almost every single one of them is having to build like an on-site power plant to not devastate the local community and completely jack up the energy costs around the country. So there's going to be a huge spike in just power production across the country revamping the grid. And then from the data centers to AI, and not just AI being like a little chatbot that you talk to, but AI being implemented into the real world, which is where the robotics, self-driving cars, all that comes into. So it's coming faster than you think. Sometimes I get a little excited, a little ahead of myself. I'm like, it's coming tomorrow. Still, it's coming really fast, but it's not necessarily tomorrow. But we're also, not investing for today or tomorrow. We're investing for the long run, forward-looking things. So there's a lot of big things happening. I'd say this is probably one of the most exciting times to be investing in the U.S. stock market, global stock market. There's just a ton of things changing right now.
And also, Nick will get the opportunity. We, at the beginning of every year and halfway through the year, Nick shares an investment outlook and insights. So we'll be able to dive a heck of a lot deeper into all of that as well. And that's another thing you can do in the new year is you can tune into Nick's, annual market update to give you some insights as far as what he sees in the markets.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I think that's a lot of great insight for where people can put some time and energy to make sure they're set up for success in the new year. So I appreciate all that great feedback for all of our viewers and listeners. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Tyler. Full disclosure, he's going to get the sympathy rant this week. He's going through it with the new baby. So Tyler, go ahead and give us your 60-second rant on having the third baby in the house there.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the sympathy. As I said earlier, right now in zombie mode, my rant is going to be on the different changes from having 1 kid to 2 kids to 3 kids. The first kid, you baby that kid, sleep schedules, got to eat, you're keeping track. You might even have an Excel spreadsheet for everything they're doing. Second kid, okay, throw 2 in the mix, some things happen. This third kid, they're just along for the ride. So I wonder how that programs when third kids become adults. Are they more easygoing? Are they more high strung? There's got to be a study out there. But as I'm seeing this progress, poor Brady, which is my new one, he's just along for the ride, right? He's doing everything that siblings are doing. So that's my rant for the day. But I love kids. Wife even threw out there that this may not be our last one. So who knows? I may have some more insights on one point.
Yeah, you'll visit. We'll have to hear from you when number 4 comes along then too, Tyler. So
playing zone defense now too.
A good fight.
You know how that goes.
Yep, keep fighting the good fight, my man.
And thanks, Tyler. Well, just like our investing, we're in it here for the long haul with Balanced Wealth. So we'll see how Brady turns out in 18 years. We'll check back in on episode 5,000 of Balance Your Wealth. Thanks for joining us for another week of Balance Your Wealth, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everyone.